Yanasuch mi shene 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 ya. Tu na ya sianach mi it ebe. Yanach turgal ta iashana. Suranam da achmi it en et eshe hisa. Shono hinean shene Isanayana shenmeventono intene Isuratanaya intene ono Hitandevene shentayam Ishenoi hunton hone shenea Hiranach minenten yewe tural hatat nandevenu Inteyene yeshono shontana Yana asanant ewe Yesu Huranachta avisurt et esetna. Ktie no sa iashe an acht es urkta. Imt eveshet nachta iaraktal mich teveson. Idende anayande. Yanda yande hende veo onde ya Ande yanda yande ondo yande onde vena Ande yanda ya yendu Yanda hende Nayande hunu nandayande Hanaya nayana anu anaya Yane anaya anaya enu anaye Anwe esurt et hamt hiananta iasa ianantayana sianashe hiveneshena Satnam, thank you for connecting with me. Thank you for joining. Welcome. So, the energy that I am sharing here, that I am connecting with here, has been reminding me. When I created this, when this came through, what came to me. Obviously, it looks kind of giraffe-y, right? So what came to me was like the planes. And as I was seeing these planes, it felt very endless, and this is what I've been going through recently as well. It's almost like, after we enter the darkness, after we enter our own darkness, in order to with the ultimate goal of shedding light on our shadow aspects, etc., etc., like following from the last video. after entering the darkness, we tend to and after shedding light on that as well, we tend to enter the space of, it's almost like a limbo space, and this is what I liken to these fields, these like plains, right? Because when we expand beyond a previous way of perceiving things, you know, like the way of perceiving a person or life or ourselves, or the way of believing, when we expand beyond a pattern or whatever, there is a time where we find ourselves in a sort of vaster space. It's almost like for a time we become aware of the space that has been created, right? But then sometimes when we are in the space, it's almost like things can seem somewhat challenging, because it almost seems like nothing is moving forward, because we might have gone through this beautiful realization or beautiful healing moment or experience or whatever it might be, and then all of a sudden things like like a lot of expansion, and then all of a sudden things seem pretty maybe bland in some ways, but like just like things aren't moving. And sometimes while we are walking through this field, you know, like we see this end goal in front of us. We see this, it's like we feel this internal something, 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 something. You can feel your spirit tugging at you, but it's almost like you're just not getting there. You see it, it's just like this field is so vast, it's almost like you're not getting there. And that's fair, that's okay, it's okay to feel that way, etc., right? Just know that that's part of the medicine, that's part of what it is that needs to be experienced, because it seems like you're not getting anywhere, but so much is happening while you are traversing over that vast field of empty space. So, I say it is empty because it is a space created, right? But sometimes, as we are also walking in this field with our like goal set on this heaven on earth for ourselves, or this like way of being, enlightenment, whatever it is, you get what I'm trying to say, right? Sometimes, as we look around us in this field, we tend to see patterns play out within our own lives. We tend to once again see the shadows. We see the shadows, but more in a shadowy way. Like, how can I explain this? It's you know, in the ancient Greek world, in the ancient Greek mysteries, Hades, the underworld, was seen as there was like these fields actually that like people that had quite uneventful lives or whatever would just like drift around as like shades, if that makes sense. That's kind of how I like shades of their former selves, like no real memories, not really there, not really here. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's kind of like that. But that's how I see that we perceive our patterns when in this space. At least that's how I can perceive it, and that's exactly what I'm trying to teach you or trying to guide you into. Ultimately, to find your own perception and your own way of doing things. But I have found that by sharing my own experience, it assists others. So hey, why not share, right? Yes. I digress. When we walk in this field, we tend to see like the shadowy patterns play out, and this is kind of like symbolic of like the patterns playing out in our lives. You know, the patterns playing out in our relationships and within ourselves, the way we think, etc., 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 etc. Because as ultimately everything is symbolic. The light language is symbolic. It is symbols that carry frequencies and understandings and teachings, etc., 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 just like the picture, just as the story I am sharing with you, because in a way it is just a story, but it is very real as well, at least for me, and perhaps for you as well. You understand what I'm trying to say. So yes, that is kind of what this has been teaching, what I've been receiving from this space, because in a way this was sometimes the hardest for me, like this vastness, this open space, but it almost me feeling like not getting anywhere or me not progressing, and even sometimes seeing these shadowy aspects, seeing these shadowy representations and symbolic things in my life of patterns and beliefs, etc., that don't serve me. Sometimes seeing that, it felt like I was even regressing, but it isn't. We are just given a chance to once again see what it is that needs to be changed. And every time you go through the cycle, because just as you go through this rebirth cycle, it happens over and over again, just as everything else does in our lives. This death and rebirth cycle is a continuous cycle as well. Like becoming enlightened is never really reached, maybe, perhaps, because it is a continuous process of reaching that state. Everything happens in cycle. It happens over and over and over again, just deeper, deeper levels, and perhaps different stories are added or taken away, etc. But like that story for a different time. So this is what this has been teaching me, that really getting comfortable in that uncomfortability, really getting comfortable in the space of really giving trust over to God, that even though it seems like you might be walking into infinity, into this field of like nothingness, like every move you make doesn't matter, that's where that, like when you really feel hopeless, like you're just walking through this gray field and everything around you seems kind of dead and somewhat just hopeless, I guess, that's when you can really put your trust into God and really put your trust in yourself as well, that you know that if you just continue forward, you will eventually reach the second stage, as you always do. This is another thing I hope to share with a lot of you, is the knowledge of the cycle. Everything is a cycle. Like, we keep on repeating cycles, and it's actually quite intriguing to what extent we keep repeating cycles and don't even notice it. Like, I thought I was fairly aware of it until recently. I was like, whoa, this is like really, really, really intense. Like, it's the exact same cycle. It's just like we keep repeating these things. It's weird, these energy plays, but it's beautiful because it's teaching us so much. It is giving us so many opportunities to free ourselves of all the bullshit. Like that's what it is. It's bullshit. Like all the things that do not serve. In love, of course, but like even love the bullshit as well. That doesn't make it less bullshitty, but we should love it. Anyway, the field, this field that we walk through. It is in this field when nothing happens, when we feel like nothing happens, when so much happens, and it's in this field when the actual inner work really happens, when we get to observe the patterns around us, whether we notice it or not, when we get to observe how we react to the patterns, whether we realize it or not. Yes, so thank you so much for listening and connecting. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed this because, as I said, this was something that was really, it was an energy that I at some point found really difficult to express and deal with within myself. But it's been really just an act of giving over to spirit. That's all it is. Trusting spirit and trusting yourself. Every time, because spirit every time gives you every reason to trust it. So yes, thank you so much. I will be going now. Mim denesho non durkat. Vesurtna. Ianachtai Michel Neteyen. Goodbye. Oh, before I leave, please do donate. I would appreciate that so much. Anybody that donates like more than the amount that I ask for a drawing, obviously will receive one as a gift. Please subscribe and comment. Ask me questions. I love answering questions. And yeah, please tune in for the next one. Okay, enjoy your evening or your day or whatever, guys. Much love. Bye.